Morning, everybody. My name is Al Emery, Managing Director at Momentum Software Solutions. Just want to welcome you all to our Exo online user forum. I'll take you through the agenda very shortly, so we hope you enjoy the session this morning. We've got people online from all over Queensland, Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, Mackay, all around, so great to see a really good representation of our Exo customers online with us. We'll just share my screen and take you through our agenda. Before I do, just a quick bit of online meeting etiquette. It's always good to know. So if you're not familiar with Teams meetings or webinars, a couple of things that just help us have the best quality and experience for everybody. So if you haven't already, please mute your microphone. It just stops background noise coming through during the presentation. You can always unmute when you have a question. Up in the toolbar in the top right-hand corner of your Teams screen, you should see all of those icons. So there's a chat icon, a raise your hand icon, the camera and the microphone. So just a couple of minor housekeeping things there to be aware of, please. We are recording the webinar and we'll make the recording available to you shortly after today's session. So today I guess we've got 8 key subject areas that we're going to cover. So a bit of an update from me on Momentum and what we've been doing to improve as a business and to improve our service to our customers. So very important. Then we have Valantis from MYOB, and he is going to provide us with a bit of an update on what's happening with MYOB, both as a company and also from the software platforms that are of interest to us. Then one of our consultants, Sean, is going to take us through the latest version of MYOB Exo, which is the 2021.3 release with a number of really good new features there, as well as resolution of a few problem areas. Then we have Brian from our team, who's going to showcase a number of the Momentum add-ons that we have developed over the last 10 years, which really extend the functionality of what the core Exo product does. After the break, we'll introduce all of our Exo consultants to you so you can put a face to the name. Then we're going to take you through a preview of the cloud payroll and workforce management solutions that MYOB have had on the market. Payroll's been in the market for some time, called Advanced Payroll. Workforce management, much more recent. So should be of interest to businesses that have needs in those areas. And then we're going to take a look at the TimeTrak solution, which works beautifully together with Exo's job costing module, and then plenty of time for questions at the end. So a quick update from me on what we've been doing to get better. I guess firstly, we've grown quite a lot. Our number of clients has grown over the last 12 months to over 260 now, using the different ERP and payroll products that we provide. We've had a lot of focus on manufacturing and construction verticals, and so we've really improved our capability there, both from a people and a knowledge perspective. Our consulting team have grown, so we now have over 30 people in our consulting team providing a combination of implementations, training, support and technical development, integration and report design. We've worked on our capability to convert Exo customers to MYOB Advanced for those that want to and are able to. And especially our ongoing focus is just on our customer experience, so that customers feel like they're always getting value from us. We do that in a number of ways with account management catch-ups and calls. Sometimes those are on site, sometimes online. Making sure that customers are aware of upgrades and the benefit of those upgrades to them. We try to celebrate customers who've been with us for a long period of time. And we do a lot of internal knowledge sharing. So we developed a knowledge base a couple of years ago, and we KPI our consultants on adding useful content into that knowledge base. We also just acquired a new office in Brisbane where we've relocated our Brisbane team to, and that's based in Brendale. So we've just moved in there, still got a few minor things to do with painting and signage. But that really sets us up for future growth, particularly in Brisbane, which is where a lot of business comes from. We ticked over our 11th year in business. We developed a new add-on for Exo, which is the requisitions module, which comes as part of our Approval Advantage add-on that a number of our clients use. And we also expanded our overall solution offering for new clients to include Vais or Microsoft Dynamics, as it's commonly known. And in the next 12 months, our focus is on continuing improvement. So we're always looking to make sure that customers are upgraded to the latest version of Exo, and also utilising the new features that are available. So the upgrade's often one part, but actually then implementing features can often be a second part that's needed. Continuing to enhance the overall solution that you can leverage off by further developing add-ons or customizations that suit your unique business and how you want to operate. Making sure that customers are aware of the various add-ons that are available besides the Momentum developed ones, and there's quite a significant list of those in the MYOB app marketplace, as well as continually improving our internal knowledge and our consulting team so that we're able to respond to things quickly, answer support issues and get those resolved quickly, as well as rolling out new projects and modules that you might be doing. And in addition to that, providing awareness of the cloud options that are available if you're looking to move your business from an on-premise scenario to cloud architecture and or software. Here's a quick couple of shots of our new Brendale location. So yeah, the guys are all moved in. It's really gives us plenty of room for future growth, and we certainly have quite ambitious growth goals. We're already 40% up this year on our prior year, which is pretty good going for a 10, 11-year-old business. On the celebration of client longevity, we celebrate 5 and 10-year anniversaries with our customers. So many of you might have already received something from us over the last couple of years if you've ticked over a 5-year or 10-year anniversary with Momentum. And if you have, we thank you so much for your sticking with us, and we hope that that'll continue into the future. Okay, so enough of an intro from me. Our guest speaker is Valantis from MYOB, and Valantis is head of go-to-market. And so he's going to share with you some information about what's happening at MYOB as an overall business, as well as, importantly, what's happening from a software and platform perspective. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll hand over to you, Valantis, and thanks for joining us.
No worries, thank you, Al. Let me get my screen share up. And I want to thank you for kind of giving me the time to kind of speak to our customers today. I think when you asked me to speak, I was reflecting on kind of what was the best information for me to share with you all today. And I know that Al's going to be taking you through the detail of kind of what's available in our new release of Exo. So I thought I'd kind of take a little different tack in terms of what I was going to share with you today. And I've kind of titled the presentation kind of MYOB Exo and Beyond, because I did want to talk to kind of how we are both supporting kind of our existing Exo customers, but then also just to give you an insight into some of the stuff we're seeing about what's happening in the broader market and kind of what's happening specifically with MYOB. As Al mentioned, I'm the head of go-to-market and also the head of product. So I'll be able to kind of share a range of different perspectives. I think so many of you have obviously been with MYOB for quite a while, but even when I joined the business, it blew me away in regards to how broad a customer base we have when it comes to the mid-market. So our mission very much is to help Australian businesses, Australian and New Zealand businesses start, survive and succeed. And in this mid-market space, we kind of already doing that. If we think about the 4,000 businesses who are using MYOB's ERP solution, kind of 65,000 users who are using our solutions every day. And then if you kind of look at what does that translate into in terms of all of the economic activity that we support, there's kind of circa $11 billion of transactions that happen daily, per annum. It'd be nice if it was daily, but per annum. And then also about 1.3 million employees who are paid through our kind of MYOB ERP products. So we take great pride in the solution that we provide, and actually are very grateful from all the customers who kind of choose our solutions to help run their business. If we look forward towards where MYOB is going and what we want to be able to offer our customers more comprehensively over time, we're really seeing a shift from thinking about what we offer as it being just an ERP solution. And for those customers on Exo, that's broadly what you have. But I'm sure within your business, you have a whole range of capabilities that you are kind of utilizing, be it Exo or add-ons, like Al mentioned, to kind of run your business. Where we see this moving over time is that customers are asking us, especially in this space, that they want something that is more comprehensive. So they want what we are deeming a business management platform. So this is where you have a connected ERP, payroll, workforce management, and then over time, even potentially financial services that are connected and that enable workflows to occur across the business that live on top of a common data set and a common experience. Now, this doesn't mean that it's a closed environment. It's still very much an open environment that allows you to connect to kind of other third-party solutions. But the thing that we're very much focused on is ensuring that the people who are using the software and the platform are able to use the solution in the way that they see fit to be able to kind of deliver on kind of the work that they're trying to do. And for us, kind of being in the cloud is a critical component of it. That's what enables a lot of that connectivity. The second aspect is around that real-time visibility that I touched on, in terms of the ability for someone in the warehouse and for someone in finance and for someone in payroll to be kind of on top of the same data set in real time. It makes a really big difference to the kind of workflows that you can actually enable. The other aspect that's kind of core to where we're focusing the creation of our business management platform is designing it specifically for Australian and New Zealand businesses. So there are obviously others out there who are global in nature and are trying to offer a generalized solution. Where we really pride ourselves is on our ability to make sure that it is tailored for an Australian and New Zealand context. But the fortunate thing for us in terms of the underlying business management platform, and for some of you may not know this, but the MYOB Advanced platform actually has some of the capabilities that are offered through Acumatica, which is a global player. So you kind of get the best of both worlds is kind of the way we think about it. You get those global capabilities that have been tailored for a local market. And then finally, and this is a little bit newer as you think about ERP, and it's quite interesting when I talk to people who have a certain perception of what ERP software is, and it's a bit stuck in the past where the ERP solution was very much focused on financial management. ERP solutions and a business management platform actually has capabilities now that extend way beyond what a core ERP solution would have done. So it goes beyond just accounts payables, accounts receivable. But for an example, if you look at the capabilities that we have in manufacturing, the capabilities that we have in construction, they are actually helping manage what is happening on the shop floor, or they are helping manage and connect what is happening on a construction site with kind of what's happening in the office. So these are all solutions that are expanding kind of what is ERP, payroll, workforce management, plus industry workflows into something that is much more comprehensive. And that we see that evolution continuing to accelerate as people want that kind of connected system. And where we're kind of seeing this, and we were seeing this in pockets from conversations that we were having with customers, and this kind of led us to engage Forrester Consulting to do some work for us and some research to understand, is this something that's unique, or is this something that's in high demand across the market? And there was a study that we did that we kind of named Seizing the Advantage. So if you haven't seen it, kind of have a Google and you'll find kind of the article that talks through this in a bit of detail. And what we looked at is we talked to hundreds of businesses across Australia and New Zealand to try and understand what their experiences were today with the business and people management solutions that they're using. And I suggest to sit down if you're not already sitting down. What we found was that through this research that 12.5 hours per week of time is wasted by employees due to disconnected systems. And originally, to be honest, when I first heard that result, I kind of struggled to believe it. But if you kind of reflect on the time that people may be spending, or the hidden wasted time that's spent kind of creating manual reports, kind of consolidating two Excel spreadsheets, pulling it out of a system, or working around the system to kind of do what you want to do, you can really start to see how those 12.5 hours can actually kind of culminate. The second thing for me was around the fact that 1 in 2 mid-market decision makers recognize this impact on poor customer experiences. So the challenge that we kind of identified was that people know that this exists, and it is not only impacting kind of the back office, let's say, it's actually impacting what's possible for these businesses when it comes to the customer experiences that they can create. So for customers in retail, as an example, as they moved into omnichannel or started to kind of get stronger in e-commerce, a back office solution that doesn't support the customer experiences they want to create, be that the speed at which they can provide them, or the speed at which they can support customers. So think about things like the ability for someone to order from an e-commerce website while knowing what is actually in the warehouse to make sure that delivery times are kept as short as possible. Those are the types of things that we found in that research. The other thing was around is what they had today kind of delivering or starting to deliver. And equally, a few surprises that came out for us was around kind of 54% of businesses are yet to move to the cloud. So still, for businesses that aren't there yet, kind of they are still in the majority in terms of people who aren't moving there. And obviously, a lot of you are still on Exo, be that in a hosted environment, kind of which is closer to the cloud, or kind of an on-premise environment. You are still the majority, but over time, obviously, I can see that continuing to become less. The other bit for me, which blew me away, was that 38% believe their solutions do not meet the needs of their business. That's an incredibly high number for me. These are people who are often decision makers and are aware that their solutions are holding them back. And this kind of led us to do a whole lot of work, which is actually in the report, that talks to kind of why are they struggling to kind of make that change. So I won't spoil the conclusion if you want to kind of read that report, but it's in there as to kind of what are the things that are holding everybody back. But kind of people know they need to change, but they kind of can't get over that change effort. The bit that I will share, though, so I won't kind of hold back too much today, is actually why, if you know there's a challenge, like what's the benefit? Like what's the benefit of kind of coming out the other side? And this was also something that we identified. And this was actually global work that Forrester has done. And what it highlighted was that businesses, and Forrester has a definition of what they call a unified platform or future fit platforms. But what they found were that businesses that ran on these future fit unified platforms grew at 3.2 times faster than their industry peers. So this is two businesses in the same industry, and based upon what solution they are running on. Now, obviously, there's other factors that play into it, but kind of controlling for those, businesses that are on a future fit platform would grow 3.2 times faster. And for me, that differential kind of for some industries is actually the difference between kind of succeeding and kind of not surviving. So quite insightful when we saw that. The other thing for me was that organizations were able to deliver more efficient and effective customer experiences. So it's not just about efficiency in the back office and kind of making that hum. It actually also impacts what happens in the way that you kind of support your customers. So it's kind of helping top line, not just bottom line. And then finally, around organizations were able to recognize time savings and increase employee productivity. So this is one I'd imagine is something that people can really connect with. Kind of if you have a system that's efficient, you kind of have greater employee productivity. The other bit that came from here was also higher employee engagement. So in businesses that were using modern solutions that kind of work the way that many of our employees want to work, they actually also resulted in not just time efficiency because there's kind of less activity and more automation, but actually higher engagement. People were engaged in the work that they were doing, were more engaged in terms of driving innovation, which was something that was kind of above and beyond what you would typically expect in kind of a piece of work that you'd be doing around just automating manual processes or kind of removing paper processes. Now, if you kind of zoom back in terms of kind of what is the breadth of this business management platform, because it is a bit amorphous. What this lives on is kind of it is a cloud native solution, kind of running on AWS. There's a whole lot of platform kind of product and capabilities that sit within there as well in terms of having APIs, kind of the ability to easily collect add-ons and things in the ISV marketplace and ecosystem. But if we can continue to kind of build up from the bottom of the stack in terms of what exists in a business management platform, financial services is what you'd expect to see over time. They're not in there today, but think about the ability to process payments on invoices, the ability for you to kind of get access to work cash flow management solutions. Those are the types of things that you should expect to see in a business management platform over time. You then have the kind of guts of a business management platform being kind of payroll, workforce management, kind of business management systems. And I'm not sure if you saw in the AFR today, there was actually some work that talked to increasing wages, which is great for the broader kind of economy, but for us in for kind of financial controllers or CFOs, kind of that emphasis on workforce management and efficient workforce management, I can see continuing to become incredibly more important. So I'm excited to hear that kind of Al's going to give you a bit of a demo later in this session to kind of what that is. And then the final thing that layers on top, which I kind of touched on earlier, is these industry solutions. So the ability for us to kind of go beyond, if you're in manufacturing, construction, or even professional services, you'll be able to see us going deeper into kind of what would be deemed front office. So shop floor, construction site, professional services, kind of managing work in progress. Now, the advanced kind of business platform has a whole range of capabilities across inventory management, workforce management, projects, but kind of there's a big laundry list, and I'm sure kind of Al and the team can kind of take you through what those kind of capabilities are and their potential relevance for you and your business. The other thing I also want to touch on is that the advanced platform has been around for quite a while now and is quite mature and stable. So I think there's always a bit of a balancing act in terms of being the first and making sure you're obviously not the last. But it's kind of at this point in time, the advanced platform is well and truly in the sweet spot when it comes to picking a platform that has gone through its teething issues and is stable and delivering a ton of value to customers. So, and I've kind of circled ATP Science there because that's actually one of Al's customers who is on the advanced platform and is having a great experience from what I'm being told. Now, I recognize that you're all Exo customers. You may be wondering, why is he talking to me about advanced? So I did want to come back to the fact that MYOB hugely values the loyalty of all our customers, including customers who are on the Exo solution, who have been with us for an incredibly long period of time. And I did want to kind of spend the time taking you through kind of where we're going. But I also want to recognize and continue to reinforce the fact that we're supporting people who are kind of where they are today and supporting them to kind of get to where they want to go over time. So this, if you think about what we're continuing to do with Exo, is the enhancements that we are doing will continue to be based on kind of critical customer feedback. So the future for the Exo product is going to be us kind of really identifying the critical components that need to be kind of addressed in the product. So these are things like most recently kind of stock reconciliation and negative stock balances, which was doing some quirky things that some of you may have experienced. So kind of that has been resolved. The other thing is in terms of listening to our customers, kind of enhancements, any enhancements are going to be based on kind of ideas that are coming from our customers. So potentially an extension of extra fields capabilities, but you can imagine over time that would kind of slow down as more of that capability gets built into the advanced platform, unless it's kind of mission critical. And what that looks like is kind of 4 releases per year. So like Al will kind of take you through what's in there and how to make sure that you're kind of staying on the latest release. And from an MYOB standpoint, like we will continue to support kind of all releases from the current year and the previous 4 releases. So you're well and truly on a stable platform Exo, and kind of we're essentially here for you kind of when you're ready to kind of move to the next stage. The other thing I want to kind of reinforce is kind of how are we kind of helping customers who have been loyal with us over years kind of make that transition when they are ready, and there's a whole range of things that we are doing to kind of make that transition smooth. So we are looking at building enablement tools to kind of support you kind of making that change to these new workflows. Like, I don't underestimate the effort that's required to kind of make that transition. So we're looking to make that smoother. The other thing that I wouldn't underestimate is the benefit of working with a partner kind of like Al and the team there, who understand your business, understand what exists within Exo, and therefore also understand Advanced and can help you make that transition. The other thing is about getting access and to your historical data for an extended period of time. I think as you move your systems and move your approaches, it's sometimes easier to kind of draw a line in the sand in what comes along and what stays behind, and continuing to have access to that is critical, that we're kind of making sure is incorporated in the offers that we would be providing for people going through that transition. And then the final thing, we do recognize the fact that kind of you're all kind of running a business and where an enabler that sits underneath. So we're kind of also wanting to make sure that as you go through that transition, we're kind of minimizing and managing any disruptions to your business. So it's a smooth transition kind of when you start to make that move. And before I kind of run out of time, I did want to kind of leave you all with one thing, and it might be a little bit weird for a technology business to say, don't think about us first. But I think like my background is in management consulting, so I've been through many of these in the past. But for me, as you think about that move and when is the right time, I would really ask you to think about it first and foremost as a business transformation. So think about what are the customer experiences that you want to be able to provide in the future. What are the experiences that you want to be able to provide to your employees, be that flexible working, or kind of connected workflows across different parts of the business, and start there. Start in terms of what do you want to be able to do in the future in your business, and only once you've really understood what those things are, then come to technology. I've seen many projects in the past that kind of go the reverse and say, hey, I want to do the technology first, and then when I get there, I'll work out why it matters. That typically isn't a great way to get greatest value out of it. Start with what is the business transformation? What is the CEO? What is the business owner? What is the CFO looking to achieve in their business? What is their ambition in the next 1, 2, 3 years? Then use that to reflect on what you have, to then help dictate kind of what you need moving forward, be that technology, be that better process management. So with that, basically going to pause and open up. Al, I don't know if we have any time for any Q&A or if people have any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Valantis. We've got a scheduled Q&A at the end, but I guess while we have the opportunity, while Valantis is on the call, if any of you do have any questions for Valantis for things relating to MYOB, please raise your hand or unmute your microphone and feel free to ask away. All right, so yes, Janelle, you have your hand up, go ahead.
Just wondering, as far as product updates with STP, haven't heard anything come out regarding the changes that come in January. Are they coming out soon? Are we on track to go live when the ATO want us to?
Yeah, so I suspect you're asking predominantly around STP2, the second phase. Is that right, Janelle?
Correct.
Yeah, so we're kind of working through that at the moment and the timings with the ATO. So we haven't got a final date on that release, but we are on track to make sure that we kind of reach the obligations of the ATO. There's been actually a few software businesses who have kind of worked through the implications of these changes. So kind of we're kind of on track, but we can provide you more information as we get there. But essentially, we have you covered.
Okay, so January is still the expected time.
So in terms of the final release date, I don't have it on hand, but I can kind of come back to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
And yeah, we'll be sending out information like we received from MYOB about the STP phase 2 project and what's involved from an Exo Payroll upgrade perspective.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks, Valantis. I think we'll carry on with the agenda. So really appreciate your presentation. Hopefully everybody found that informative. And our next presenter is Sean from the Momentum team. Sean's going to be giving you an overview of the latest release of Exo 2021.3. So I'll pass over to Sean right now. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Al. Right, let me just get that across. Morning, everyone. The latest version of Exo 2021.3 was released late in October. It was put through a beta testing earlier in the year. And I'm sure a lot of people are really looking forward to it, especially if you have issues around split lines or the extra fields. So 2021.3 largely addresses those issues for you. There's also some UI and functionality improvements which have come through in this latest version. So I'll run those past you shortly. We've started looking at doing upgrades now. So if you're waiting to do the upgrade, just get in touch with us and we can start lining up the upgrades for you. Okay, just in terms of new features that we've seen in the upgrade, in the stock adjustments, in the manual stock adjustment screen, we have seen, just in terms of the manual adjustment screen, we've seen some changes in the stock movements. And what we've seen is there's some renaming of the stock movements import screen. And it's just some cosmetic things as far as I can see there. But there is the old legacy screen available if you do require it. In terms of the reason classes, the reason classes are now also available for all stock adjustments, which previously they weren't there. So these reason classes can also be pushed through to any of your reporting requirements as well. Just another update here is just in terms of the business alerts, where previously the business alerts could not fire in multiple conditions. These alerts will now fire for multiple conditions on your business alerts. And what that means is if you have got 5 business alerts, these business alerts will all be displayed on one window for you. So if you've got sort of 4 or 5 conditions that you have got alerts on, they will all be displayed in one window, which is what you can see just down on the screen over here. So very, very handy. In terms of the extra fields, there's been some additional functionality that's come through there. We now have the extra fields being displayed on the right-hand side of the table view, which allows you to also drag and drop extra fields in position. So you can actually just drag them from position 4 to position 1. Likewise, you can also drop them or essentially stack them on one top of the other, as you can see for the multiple fields here. And this is great. So if you've got different sales order types, for example, the order, quote, standing orders, and the laybys, you only need one field to have all of them for all different 4 order types. Just in terms of Unicode, if you are upgrading from a later version, more recent version, 2019 or later, 2019.4.1 or later, then there's no requirement for Unicode upgrading. Anything prior to that, same as all any other upgrades, you would need to be doing a Unicode upgrade. A very handy new feature which has just been introduced, which Valantis alluded to, was just on the stock location variances. This is a new utility which would have to be added through to your menus, either in the drop-down or on the dashboards. And what this allows you to do is, with this window, you can calculate the variances and report on them between what the stock location table says and what all the movements are for all of your stock locations. And then there's a second tab there for transactions. and that transactions tab displays all the variances on their locations. So it's a handy reference point for you to track down any of your variances on stock locations. So that's a new feature coming through, which will be quite useful. Something that I know is relevant to one or two clients that I've worked with is just in terms of depreciation and revals. If anyone's ever made a mistake in depreciation or on their revals and are looking for a means to reverse it, it's always been a challenge, and you've needed assistance from your partner to address that. MYOB's just introduced the reversal tool here, and this allows you as the end user an opportunity to reverse your depreciation or your reval transaction, and that's just achieved by reversing the GL batch. Just take note that this is only for the most recent transaction, whether it be depreciation or reval. So if you have several, it would only do the last one. Something else that Valantis mentioned was the negative stock checking. And what this does here is if you are doing a inwards goods reversal when returning goods, or if you are putting through a BOM and you've selected the profile to check for negative stock, previously you wouldn't get a warning there, and now a warning will be displayed if these transactions push your stock on hand into negative. Something else which I've come across a couple of times is just in terms of Exo doing some quirky things with your average costs. Now Exo, if there is an entry just in terms of when you receipt the stock and it wasn't a negative position, so if your stock on hand was in a negative balance and a receipt comes through, what it is doing now is it is going to post a GL entry through to your inventory account and your stock adjustment accounts to bring the to account for that change in weighted average cost. Okay, obviously this is only just for average cost, and it's purely when you're doing a receipt on that entry. Let's go through here. Okay, so on job costing, something else which is going to be a time saver is just when you're making changes specifically on the cost tab and you are doing any changes with respect to cancelling a line, writing off the line, if you're going to be moving it to another job or sending the line through to the invoice. When you action any of those on the cost tab, it's going to actually make the save immediately as you do that change, and you're not going to have to press save on the job there. Something else that's just been introduced is the ability to select an earlier date when you cancel, move, or on the cost tab when you cancel or move or write off. Here you can see on the right-hand side a window will pop up, and you will be able to select a date at an earlier date, which is obviously very useful there. Something else coming through on jobs is the new event reason codes. By default, this is set to silent for job write-offs and job cancels. What that means is the user, whoever that user is, it's going to track that user on all of your entries. But you do have the option in that event reason class to set it to active. When you set it to active, it will pop up with a window for you to enter it on those entries. Version 2021.3 has also introduced a number of bug fixes or issues that have resolved. If you are coming from an earlier version of Exo, you might have experienced issues with split line functionality. The split line functionality on inwards goods was resolved in version 2021.1. And so in version 2021.3, that split line functionality is obviously available. So where you have serial numbers or batch codes and you need to split your inwards goods, that feature is available for you now in 21.3. There were some issues also on costs. in terms of not being able to process the on costs when you first set the flag. That has now been resolved. In terms of stock batch codes, there was just an issue in terms of searching, and it wasn't returning all the matching items for stock codes. This has now been resolved. In your GL reporting section, the percentages weren't displaying correctly when you ran the reports. This has now also been resolved. Something that I've just dealt with in a few clients recently, just on the bank recons, items ticked on the left-hand side on your GL. If they were ticked, you couldn't reconcile them even though they hadn't been reconciled. This has also now been resolved. There's an issue with respect to mail shots with regards to email addresses, also being resolved, which was great. Previously, if you were trying to edit a debtor invoice, you could end up with an error on that side. The issue, and this would have only been for some clients, that problem has also been corrected now. Let me look here. Just in terms of credit to ABNs, what happens now is when a credit to ABN is entered, it is going to be checked to see if it's valid or if it's not associated with the company. So if you've got invalid ABNs, you will get an error message there. There was an issue just with the extra fields as well when they were being displayed on the headers. When it was first displayed, the extra fields box was incorrectly scaled, and that has now been resolved, so it will display all of your extra fields correctly. And then the big fix for a lot of clients is just the extra fields on the line items with version 2021.2. When that release was introduced, the line items were the line items extra fields did not save down to the database, and that issue has now been resolved. In terms of job costing, there's been a number of fixes as well. Just in terms of the job quotes, there was just some sizing issues that's been resolved. A big issue here for anyone who was creating assets out of the job, there was the potential to create an asset, even if there were insufficient materials on hand to create that asset. That has now been resolved, and you won't be able to do that. If you had multiple windows open and you're trying to do a quote, you could end up with an error, and this has now been resolved and should give you the correct results on your quote. In terms of the stock transactions, you could have invalid stock codes, and this has now been resolved as well. If you try and create an invalid stock code, I have seen this in several clients as well. There's a WIP issue, which has been resolved as well, just in terms of the WIP out dates. So for those clients where this is relevant, this is obviously going to be a welcome change. And another thing here, just in terms of the unwrite-off of a line, if you put through an unwrite-off and then you made a few changes to that line again in terms of cancelling or moving, etc., and then saved, it would create an error between WIP and the GL, and this has now been resolved. So that's obviously going to be helpful on your GL. Additional bug fixes coming through as well. Just in terms of your creditor payment processor, the authorization column wouldn't be displayed incorrectly, and this has now been fixed as well. So obviously that's going to help you there. Something that some clients had mentioned was just on the clarity reports, and the incorrect headers were being exported, and this has now been resolved as well, where Excel was receiving multiple header rows of the report instead of just one. This has now been resolved. And lastly, just in terms of on the config, if you were doing a profile setting, the checkbox would be hidden on the profile setting, so you couldn't see if it was ticked. Again, that's been fixed on the config. So that's it with the bug fixes. So there's quite an extensive list, and that should really make your latest version of Exo help a lot. Just in terms of known issues with this version, there is a CRM issue just in terms of the budgets. If you've got a very, very large budget just with several thousand rows, we could end up with a memory leak issue here. And the solution there is really to delete that budget and then do it again, and that should resolve the issue for you. There was an issue just in terms of barcodes, and you could end up with an error on the barcode for your fixed assets if you have a Unicode barcode. The solution from MYOB in interim is to change that to a QR code to resolve that issue. Just as long as your printer can then actually print out the QR code, that should resolve your issue for you. And there was just some issues just in terms of high DPI window displays. Just contact us if you're experiencing those issues, and we'll see how we can assist you there. For those of you that had PTRS, which is just with respect to the large company payments for the smaller entities, you might have some issues there, and that's just down to the one SQL database field not being correctly recorded. And just chat to us if you're experiencing those issues, and we'll see how we can assist you on that side. Lastly, as well, which I've mentioned, is just the resizable extra fields, and you might find some issues there. And the way to resolve that is just to do a restore to the window mode, and then maximize and then resize, and that should address the issue for you there. So there are some known issues there. I have done quite a bit of testing on all of the features and the bugs. Obviously, I can't test all of the bug fixes due to specific client situations and installations or customizations, but we have tested quite a lot. The big one, obviously, being the extra fields on the lines. And I know a lot of clients have been waiting for that. So that is a welcome issue that's been resolved for a lot of the clients. So with that, if there's any questions on Exo, you can contact us. We are available to do upgrades. And now we've already started lining up one or two. And obviously that will require some initially testing of your installations before we go live.
Thank you, Sean.
Yep.
Really appreciate your presentation, and hopefully you can all see from the areas that Sean's just been through a lot of improvements in Exo. Some of them are subtle, but I know for a fact that some of those job costing improvements, especially with date tracking of cancelled and write-off and moved lines, and the ability to backdate those, will save some of our job costing clients at least a day a month trying to close off their WIP valuation each month. And I particularly like the business alerts feature. A lot of our clients use it, but I feel it's still a bit underutilized. It's really business rules that you can apply to make sure that your employees enter things the right way, do things the right way, and reduce errors, and also reduce the margin leakage. So make sure purchase order must have a cost, for example. You can make that mandatory. Sales quotes can only be saved if they meet a certain margin or don't breach your rules. A lot of things you can do with business alerts. And one of the screens that a business alert is now available for is an inwards goods receipt, which is a common area of error. People entering the wrong unit of measure, not entering a price, which means that before you've even got to the accounts payable side, your stock is potentially wrong or your job costs are potentially wrong. So always worth, I guess, keeping in mind what you can utilize with those Exo features. So next we have Brian. And Brian's going to have our Momentum add-on showcase. So this is just highlighting things we've done that extend the functionality of Exo. So Exo is a very good product, but it doesn't do everything that everybody likes. So over the journey, we've added enhancements to enable that to happen. So over to you, Brian.
Thanks, Al. Yeah, morning all. Thank you. Let me just get my screen up and shared. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okie dokie. So, Momentum add-ons. So, for the Exo product, over the years, Momentum have developed quite a few add-ons, quite useful for the businesses required around it. I've chosen basically the top 5 or 6 here to run through and show you basically an overview of what they do. I'd encourage you to look on our website. You'll find a whole bunch of the other add-ons there and documents around it. So the first one is the Momentum Workflow Engine. All right, so the Workflow Engine basically is quite a powerful feature, allows you to do repetitive tasks automatically. Emailing of employee information. So employee information is the HR side of the payroll side of things. So stuff like, when tickets expire or training needs to be done, etc., can be emailed to certain people on those different tasks. Asset maintenance, those of you who've got the fixed asset side of things, linked to job costing with serviceable units. So it allows you then to set up based upon hours used or kilometers driven to maintain the assets. Quote follow-ups. So any quotes done on sales orders, the sales guys get emails saying the quotes are now being about to expire, follow up on it. Overdue purchase orders, same kind of thing, POs in the system, lying around with overdue dates. Scheduling clarity reports and scheduled data imports and updates. So a lot of the stuff you do have manually is now being automated through the workflow engine, which can be set up then and configured, stuff like doing it daily, weekly, monthly, every few hours, every night, etc. A powerful little tool. The next one is the Momentum Payroll Link. Again, Payroll Link is for clients who are running the job costing Exo suite. So normally you get the payroll separate to the job costing, separate to Exos. What the payroll link does then, it brings across all the payroll data into job costing, i.e. the names, what the departments, the earning rates, etc. So it allows you to create the employee in payroll, and the system then will update that data into Exo job costing to allow timesheet entry against those employees. The other one is Momentum Easy Maintenance. Now, most of you, I think all of you would have Easy Maintenance. We actually be bundled together with any Exo site that we've sold in the last 11 years. So Easy Maintenance is it's a method or an easy way for you guys to do your own backups. So you can do backup schedule or schedule backups. You can do a restore of a backup, copy live to test. Sometimes you want to put stuff to test to try it out. This allows you to do that very easily without using SQL scripts. Backup of certain folders as well. Refresh the backups. Another nice one is inactive users. It allows you to see all the users logged in on the system and the date they logged in and the date and time they last touched the keyboard. So you actually then go and knock them off the system and free up user access. And also allows you to maintain custom lookup fields. So lookup fields in the Exo database, this allows you to go and do custom ones, and this is where you maintain them as well. Momentum Approval Advantage and Requisitions. Mentioned earlier on by Al in his opening address, the requisitions is a new portion or sub-portion to Approval Advantage. So Approval Advantage was brought about where allows you to approve purchase orders and or supplier invoices outside of the system. So that invoices, POs come up, they get approved and ready for the invoice coming in. Invoice comes in from supplier, that then gets matched to the PO and again goes into an approval process, which can be set up on a approval tree. And now we've got requisitions as well, allowing people to raise purchase requisitions on the system to become POs again. So it allows you to do the automation of all the authorizations of the POs and say eliminate the need for hard copies going around the office being stamped and saying approved or signed or emailed. It's all now in one place, fully tracked and fully audit trail around it. The Momentum Timesheet Advantage. All right, once again, if you're using job costing, if you're using payroll, and you've got the timesheets coming in from your employees, The timesheet advantage allows you to manage that input quite easily. It can be done by the employees themselves using basically an app or logging into the system, limited, doing their own timesheet entry, then gets approved by the supervisors, or you can have timesheets coming in entered by an officer, say on the shop floor or in the payroll department or in the job costing department. So timesheets get entered in against the jobs and the different. They can also track disbursements, the allowances as well. Managers can check the hours, can approve or not approve. They can move hours around to different jobs. You can compare the hours against the budget of the job as well. Get a breakdown of employee, overtime and normal time before going to the payroll side of things. The user can say record their own time themselves. You have specific stock codes restricted to it. You can have narratives, you can split lines, you can write off lines, put a job costing, and then control the posting then into payroll. So again, very powerful tool, saves lots of time, especially around job costing and doing the payroll updates on a weekly or fortnightly basis. So those were just the top 5 steps of the Momentum add-ons and such. This then shows you in the MYOB apps marketplace, as Alistair was mentioning earlier on, all the add-ons you can get made by other companies that then add into either MYOB Exo or MYOB Advanced. So again, I encourage you to look on this website, look it up, and you can actually go and sort and query and filter by MYOB Exo and see all the add-ons that are available for the Exo marketplace. And that's me done. Well,
Thank you, Brian.
and right on time for the break.
Yes, I think we're going pretty well time-wise. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the content so far. Looking forward to the second part of our session where we'll take you through the TimeTrak add-on for Exo job costing, which is a fantastic solution, as well as a preview of MYOB Advanced Payroll and Workforce Management. So we will take a 10-minute break and see everybody back online at 11:05. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you had a quick sandwich and stretch your legs, and looking forward to getting into the last hour of this session with you. So we want to introduce you to the Momentum team that look after yourselves, our Exo customers. So I think we've got on the call our Exo team. We have Adam McGill, Sean Williams, Michelle Sagar, Pankaj Kumar, who's just joined our team recently, Kathy Davis, who's our payroll specialist, and we also have Steve Allett and Akshit Chan in our tech team, who do a lot of the writing of add-ons, customizations, integrations, and report design. Yeah, so these are the guys you talk to every day on support calls and projects and implementations that we're doing. So it's always nice to put a face to the name, I think. Okay, next on the agenda, as Valantis touched on earlier today, MYOB, like every other software company in the world, are very focused on delivering cloud solutions. And cloud solutions in and of themselves aren't necessarily better functionally. They tend to give a lot of benefit in terms of less risk, not having on-premise software that could be corrupted by crypto attacks. It's also where they tend to be investing most of their dollars on new features. So I guess when we feel cloud products become more beneficial than on-premise products, then we talk about them more loudly. And we think the advanced payroll, now that it's combined, especially with the workforce management, is definitely worth your taking a look at. I might just quickly touch on what is workforce management. So it is really a solution that handles everything from onboarding to rostering, award interpretation, and then integration with payroll. And over time, it will also be expanded to be much more than that, and will include, I guess, what I'd call core HR functionality. So yeah, we have Jo Hendrickson, our payroll and workforce management specialist, and she's going to take you through the advanced payroll and MYOB workforce management options. Thanks, Jo.
Thanks, Al. I'm just going to share my screen here so we can look at everything. So as Al said, there is integration between advanced and workforce management. It can be used standalone, but I think that the benefits when you actually package that in with advanced payroll and having all of your onboarding and all of your clocking and rostering in the same place, it really does shine through. So when you first log on to your workforce management, you'll see that there are quite a few different metrics on your dashboard. So these are customizable to be viewed from hours or costs. This is actually for the entire company. We can see who has finished their shift, who is on shift, and who is rostered but perhaps hasn't actually shown up for work. You can then drill down into each of your different areas. So if we go down into our receiving, we can see that we've got 18 timesheets to approve. We've got no one on shift, and we've got a few people that have actually finished. You can then view your productivity as far as timesheets go based upon that individual location, and all of your costs that are coming through on the payroll based upon what people's rates are. And that will be the rostered versus the actual. So as you can see, we obviously haven't shown up for work a lot. We've got quite a few people that haven't clocked in this week or this month. So obviously our actual versus our rostered is quite different. So the best place to start, I think, is onboarding, because that is probably one of the best features of the workforce management. It puts everything into your employee's hands. So your employee is the person that does all of your data entry, who uploads all of the information and does their tax file number. It saves you going backwards and forwards for missing information. We use what we call onboarding templates. Now, you can have different onboarding templates for different types of roles. So you might have a management salary type of role where you send out a different employment contract or award. Or you may have some specific award allowances and things that need to go out to employees that are working on the field. So they are all customizable to the type of positions that you're actually hiring on. So if we invite an employee, very creative. Really, the information that we put in, apart from the employee's name and email address, is just the position they're going to be filling. So if we do sales staff, and they're going to be working at our Melbourne receiving, and they are an employee, you can set them as a manager, which will then add them into an upper tier log on so they can manage rosters. We're going to put them down as full-time at $35 per hour. 7.6 hours per day and 5 days per week. Now we say who they are reporting to. That will allow you to use the rostering, clock on, clock off approval and the leave approval based upon the manager's levels. So if we pop our start date down as the 29th of November, we can upload a custom document in here as well. So aside from our standard document that we put in for awards or employment conditions, we could then put in an individual employment contract as well. We do have a standard message in our onboarding template, but if there's something else you want to pop in there, you can. Oh, I need to pop in your standard hours. So you can add standard hours that will be popped onto the roster. Your other option is to just roster someone for every single day and then use the inbuilt smart rostering. And what that will do with your smart rostering is it will use individual employees, whether they're full-time, part-time or casual, to fill these roles for you. So I'll pop them down in Melbourne. You can also roster them against different areas. So if you're wanting the person to work in receiving on one day, dispatch on the next day, and fulfillment on the third day, you can have them working in every different area of your company, but their primary branch will always remain that one that they were employed under. Okay, so that's been sent. So if we run off and check our email, the magic of the internet should do its thing. Not that quickly, obviously. Just show you that onboarding template while we wait for that to come through. In your settings, you can use these tiles, or we can search for things on here. We've got our onboarding settings in here. So this is a general employee, and you can see that you can actually put fields into your template. So in this particular one, I put their name, the company that they're joining, the role, salary, their employment basis and start date. There are a number of other fields that you can put in there, and you can go through that markdown reference as well. So what that will do is use all of the fields that I've filled out in that onboarding screen to put in their salary, their start date, and all of their employment information. Okay, so we've got our email now, and you can see here that it's got that position and the branch that I'm employed under, and then $35 per hour as my salary. So I can go to my onboarding now. Okay. So we've got all of my basic information that I've actually put in at a management level in here, and then I sign to say that I accept the position and I'm wanting to continue with the onboarding. It tells me that we're going to go through and get all of my personal information, and that I need to give consent for this to be used by the employer. Obviously, I give consent because I want to be paid. It shows them their roster where they are going to be working on each day. Now, that is just their standard working hours. Where they actually get rostered is determined by how you generate your roster. So I'll pop in number. In 80, a little bit of wishful thinking there. Postcode is here, so that will do. Need to upload photo identification. That is an option. You can turn that off or on. You can also provide proof of residency and your rights to work in Australia, but that is not compulsory on the settings that I've got here. We can also say that we own a driver's license. That expires 2025. And your employee can add any more licenses and tickets as well. So if they have any qualifications, they have tickets like a white card or a blue card, they can upload those during this process as well, and that will store them on their employee profile. Okay, so this screen here is just their normal tax file declaration form. This will go through everything that needs to be submitted to the ATO. If you're using advanced, I'm not sure about Exo Payroll, presumably you can also submit them with Exo Payroll, where they actually go through your single touch payroll. So I am a full-time employee and I'm not on a working visa, and I am a resident. Okay, so then we hit sign. So what that does is it records our IP address and the time and date that we've actually signed that, and stores it on the employee's profile. That's my primary bank account. So they can add fixed amounts and things to other bank accounts during this process as well. We don't have to put in a superannuation. We do need to put in our contact details for our next of kin. Okay, and then it presents them with the document that we uploaded as their employment agreement, and then they sign that digitally. Sign that we understand that everything we've declared is correct. Sign the acknowledgement, and away we go. So that employee is now onboarded into both workforce management and into advanced. So if we go back to our onboarding in here now, and we check the status of our onboarding, we can see that that one there is complete. And if we go into our employees, we will now have Bob Smith. No, we don't have Bob Smith. It may take a few minutes for us to sync that. So what happens then is in advanced, that will go through into MYOB Advanced. It will create the employee record. It will set up their standard pay with their superannuation details if they'd entered it. It will set up their bank account information and will also set up their pay group information. So it'll pop in their hourly rate. The other thing that it does within the workforce management system is if we have a look particularly at a couple of these onboarded employees, is in our licenses and training, it will set up a license if we've uploaded it. And then it will set up anything that we've signed. So we'll always have this onboarding declaration that was modified on the date that we signed up. And then it will have all of our IP address from our onboarding as well. It will also show in our personal information any photo identification that we actually uploaded during that onboarding process as well. So you can see that one's quite fancy. Okay, so once an employee has been onboarded, they can then actually be rostered once their commencement date starts. So any employee can be rostered in any position in the settings that we've got now. You do have the ability to require a validation of a position. So if you add a shift into your roster, for example, that requires a qualified electrician, then it will only actually roster that position out to a qualified electrician. If you try to assign that particular shift to an employee that isn't qualified, it won't allow you to actually roster them. So in this case, we've actually got, I'll go back to our full roster. We've got quite a few different positions in here. So in our rostering screen, we can view that in various ways. So we've got that colour by position at the moment. We can then colour that by employee, or we can colour it by location so that we've got each location or branch in a different colour. If a manager was to log in and to view this area here, if they only have access to one particular branch, it will not allow them to see the roster for any of the other branches. The other thing that we can restrict on our rostering is that we can prevent managers or any other staff from being able to see these estimates up here. So whilst they'll see all of the information on the shifts, they will likely not see any of this budget or cost amount, nor will they see your efficiency. Okay, so if we go back to our main page and go to our receiving batch, generally speaking, most companies will require a clock in, clock out for any sort of labouring staff. So there are quite a few options for your clock in and clock out. We have a mobile app or web browser app that allows you to clock on and off, say in a lunchroom or at the big, like you can put it at the beginning of your warehouse. You can have multiple clock-in centres throughout the business. So you may have one on the wall of each sort of area of your business. And every employee gets a PIN. So if I go and put my PIN in, I can clock in and it'll show my shift started at 11:28. Now, if we refresh this and see who is on shift, you'll see that I am now on shift but I wasn't actually rostered to be on shift. So it will throw an exception when I go to do the payroll, but obviously that's something that a manager can authorise if someone's shown up for work that hasn't actually been rostered on. We can then take breaks. So if I put in a meal break, I can start a break. The other option with your clock in and clock out is to require employees to answer a bunch of questions when they clock in. So you can do things like, are you feeling unfit for work today? Do you have any cold and flu symptoms? Have you been in an area that has been designated as a hotspot in the last 14 days? And then if they reply yes to any of those questions, it can send an alert off to the manager of that area or the employee's direct supervisor. If we end that break now, the next option is in the employee's mobile app. So this is the basic screen that the employee sees in their mobile app. And if you have enabled this mobile clock in, clock out option, which doesn't have to be enabled, you can require that they just use an app. We can come in here and clock in, and it will ask all these questions. So if I go yes to that, it would send an alert. You can also rate shift enjoyment. So if I was to go in and clock out, it'll say, how did you feel? And I'll say I was okay. And we can clock back in again. From the mobile app, you can also see your full roster. So you can see everything that we've got for this week, and then we can project it forward for a month. If you choose to publish shifts without actually allocating an employee to them, then any employee in that particular branch that's qualified for the role can see available shifts in here as well. They can also download their payslips, view any documents that they have had sent to them, and can submit expense claims as well. You can also apply for leave in the app. So if I apply for annual leave, and we submit that, as soon as I go back in here, you'll see that I have a pending leave request. So I can go through and I can either decline or approve that, or I can go through and change the information in here as well. So we can say, well, actually, that's not going to be annual leave. You don't have enough leave, or you can only have half a day leave, but we will just approve that. So from a payroll perspective, when we land on this, we see that we've got 19 timesheets that are still to be approved. So that will show any timesheets that have been completed for the current week. So there is an approval process where you can go through and say that they can be approved by a manager level, but they must be authorised by a supervisory role or an administrative role. And then you can say that only an admin member can actually complete these and send them off to the payroll. So if we send these off to payroll, and we send it to a demo pay run, if we then go into advanced, and we go into our timesheets, timesheet batches, and we go import external timesheets. So this pulls through any timesheet batches that are waiting on the workforce management. So we've got this pay test batch here. What it does is it actually goes through and validates that at the same time. So if you're familiar with advanced people, you'll know that you have to upload your timesheet and then validate that timesheet. When they're coming through from workforce management, it already knows where everything maps to. So that maps everything automatically for you to the correct employee, the correct cost center, and the correct pay item. So from there, we can actually just go through and do our payroll and import that straight into our payroll. So the last feature that I'll show you is one that quite a few people have actually been sort of talking about, and that is the ability to send files to an employee or group of employees to sign. So if, for example, you have a new employment contract or you need a group of employees to sign a non-disclosure agreement for a particular job, you can upload those to your files on the server, and then we can send them off to an employee. So if we send that to Henriksen. Okay, so you can request a signed acknowledgement. So if I send that document there and say request a signed acknowledgement, that will come back up into the documents in here eventually. It's going to email it through first. We'll go through and show you how to view the documents. You can manually sign them as well for here, but chances are you're not wanting to do that. If we go into our reporting and in our document sign off, unsigned documents only, it doesn't believe we've sent it. So obviously it hasn't emailed that out as yet. In your reporting, you can report on any documents that haven't been signed off. And you can also report on expired licenses. So that's something that we can have a look at in further demos because the reporting is quite intensive. I'll go back in and see if we can resend that document. So we can send that to a role as well. So if we wanted to send it to all of our managers, we could do that, but let's have a look and send it to Caroline Bond and see whether that works for us. As we were sent. Nope, it doesn't want to play with us today. So that's how we don't work that. There we go. So it's actually just because we're in the wrong location. So you can see that neither of those have actually been signed. If I go back into my email, here we go. We've finally got that email through. We'll view that document. Hopefully it'll show up in Chrome. I can read the document, say that I agree, and then I can sign that agreement. So if we go back in here now, we reload this a few times, eventually it will come up as signed for us. And once they have signed it, it will actually go into their employee file. So if we go and drill down into our employee files, it will show in the documents and notes. So it's not actually showing up in there yet. So I would say that's probably because it's Chrome.
Thanks, Joe.
Nothing ever works right when you want it to.
Okay, I think there's a minute lag with some of those processes resyncing. I might preempt a couple of questions that you might have. So MYOB Workforce Management integrates with MYOB Advanced Payroll. Does not integrate with Exo Payroll. So if you're interested in implementing advanced workforce management, it means implementing advanced payroll. The next question might be, does MYOB Advanced Payroll integrate with Exo? The short answer is no, but it doesn't need to a great deal, other than producing a journal at the completion of each pay, which we already have working for a couple of our existing clients. For those customers that use our existing Exo job costing and our PayLink, we are planning to expand on PayLink so that, for example, an employee onboarded in workforce management and advanced payroll is added to the job costing module as a resource, so you can capture timesheets. And I can see a question from Sharon, wanting to know if clients can sign off against timesheets as you have labour hire. Yes, I understand that requirement. I'm not sure the answer on that. Do you know, Joe, off the top of your head, if there's the ability for a third party or a customer to approve an employee timesheet?
So what you would be able to do is to just create like an admin type of user for that particular person that needs to approve that. And then you would set them as an approver of timesheets for that area, and they would be one of those those log-ons that the employee reports to, and you can have that set just for timesheet approval.
We can have a chat to you offline about that one, Sharon, if you like. And Donna, I can see you have got your hand raised for a question, so far away.
Hi, Joanne. Thank you for letting us having all this difficult system. Now it's in the Exo Payroll. We were already discussed with Brian a couple of months ago or weeks ago in regarding moving to cloud. So I believe this MYOB Advanced Payroll is cloud, right? Correct. So with the current system, we have Exo. The database file for all the stuff is in the Exo. Is it difficult to transfer them if it's going to happen? Is it difficult to transfer to MYOB Advanced Payroll, or how we do that?
No, we just we take a backup of your database and convert that into a format that we can use, and then we have a bunch of scripts that will take all of the information out of your Exo Payroll and upload it into Advanced Payroll. So we've done all that translation with previous customers, so it's now quite seamless for us to get the information out of Exo Payroll and into Advanced Payroll.
So all the details will be accurate transferred, like bank details and superannuation and everything?
Yeah, bank details, superannuation, tax file numbers, everything will come across. All of the employee positions will come across. Any information that you have against the employee, the notes will all come across as well. And along with all of your pay item configuration and all of your payroll settings. Okay.
One other question is regarding the timesheets. I think currently company have a global timesheets, which is they use different system. Is it hard to communicate it one like the other system is not MYOB? Is it talk nicely or can be friendly talk to MYOB Advanced? For example, they use now different rosters or a system.
Yeah.
In their own system.
In-house? So if you have another timesheet application that you're using a rostering system, and it is capable of outputting that roster and timesheet information, then we can import that into Advanced Payroll. It's not instant like it is with the workforce management, so it doesn't just automatically jump across into your pay run. We do have to run that through an import process, but it is fairly simple for you to use. The hard work is in us getting that set up and matched so that it is easy for you.
Yeah. Okay. One more question for new onboarding staff. I noticed you have the staff to complete all the form, right? With the superannuation and bank details, they have to complete every single thing by themselves, right?
Correct.
Okay, yes. Thank you so much, Joanne.
So you're welcome, but just to clarify that if an employee makes a mistake or doesn't fill out a section, you can manually go in and edit that. You also don't have to onboard that employee through that system where they do it themselves. You can manually onboard yourself.
Yeah.
So that is something that you can do, but any information they send through, whether it's blank or incorrect, you can correct from an admin point of view.
Yeah. So we don't have anything before they put it in?
No, all you have is their name and their email address, but you can put it in if you want to.
Yeah. So if, the problem is if we don't have it, how are we going to correct their mistakes in input all the onboarding details?
Yeah, so I mean, if they're writing it out on a form and giving it to you, they're just as likely to make a mistake as them typing it in themselves. With the tax file number is validated, so is your BSB number. So if they've typed in an invalid BSB number for their bank, it won't let them go any further. And if they type in an invalid tax file number, it won't let them go any further.
Okay, I hope this is the last one. I keep saying last one. When we create a system, like to create the, payroll security people who using it to create the maintenance, general ledger and everything, is that transferred from Exo also, like general ledger and cost center department and everything? There's going to be different setup with how MYOB advanced payroll setup. Is it going to be the same as Exo?
We would take your chart of accounts and all of your cost centers from Exo and bring them over to advanced as well.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's cool. Okay. That's all. Thanks so much, Joanne.
No problem.
Thanks, Donna. And thank you, Joe.
No worries.
Welcome.
Is TimeTrak. Now, we have Rod Sinclair, who's the CEO of TimeTrak. They're based in New Zealand. I won't steal any of Rod's thunder. He's going to show you what TimeTrak does and how it extends the functionality of what the Exo job costing module can do from a time, task, project management perspective. So over to you, Rod, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Al. Thanks for that introduction. Let me just share the screen I want to show. So I've mostly got what I'm going to show you today in a PowerPoint demonstration rather than an actual demonstration, just due to the amount of time we've got. If we get through this in good time and things, I could jump into the software and just show you some stuff. So basically, as Al says, we have an application that we like to consider an operational front end for MYOB job costing, and we provide sort of the two main functions within our platform. One is for people in the office to plan, schedule, and allocate out the work that they want their staff to do. And then from the guys in the field, have an application where they can come into that system, see what they've been allocated, capture their time, materials, fill out checklists, raise purchase orders, add materials to the job, whatever things we kind of need them to do in the field, take photos, look up documents, etc. We've got 150 customers currently across Australia and New Zealand. The majority of those probably in Australia, largely because the Australian market a lot larger than New Zealand market for this type of software. We pretty much service anyone with a time capture requirement, but predominantly we're in field service of equipment and break fix, do and charge style jobbing environments. I've listed some of the industries we cover here. So this is just when I look through our customer database, these are some of the areas where we're doing most of our work. So we have a field service component, but we also service the professional services market. And so organisations like Momentum run our software internally. And so we can use our in-office version as a time recording system for professional service type organisations as well. But typically a majority of our customers these days tend to be people managing a workforce in the field. That can be guys on the road in vehicles, or it can be in a workshop or a light factory manufacturing, capturing time against jobs on a factory floor. So we have a sort of a kiosk mode of our mobile application for that. And we do also service a couple of sort of side industries there. So we have some healthcare features, and we do labour hire. So the question that popped up during the workforce demonstration is, we have customer approvals. For example, if you want to send out a timesheet for someone that worked on a job, you can have the customer approve that, and it comes back into the system as approved. Just thought I'd touch on and the reasons you might choose our product. So probably the first one is that we are deeply integrated to Exo. So there are a number of products in this field, and some that are much larger than us, but what probably no one else can offer is the level of integration that we have back into your Exo system, and we adhere to all of Exo's business rules. So you don't have to import any files and go through the risks or the hassle of stuff not importing because it's not valid, or changing prices because it doesn't look at your data price policies in Exo, or any of that sort of stuff. We respect all of that stuff. We're an Exo partner like Momentum, so that helps us, know all that stuff. And a lot of the TimeTrak Exo partners throughout Australia and New Zealand are using our product. We are web-based, so that makes us cloud friendly and makes us easy for an organisation to distribute our software around their business internally and externally. We have a lot of customization, and we continually update our software with new features, and we have 11 dedicated staff who do the development and support of our product. We typically have 2 to 4 major releases per year of our software. Bring you over to TimeTrak Professional. So this is our Office version of our software, and I've just got a sample screen here just to talk to. So on the left-hand side of this screen is typically an area where we do the scheduling and planning. And currently I'm looking at a group of users called engineers. We have these groups along the top called work groups, and you can assemble resources into these work groups based on what's natural for your environment and the type of scheduling you need to do. So that could be people, it could be equipment, it can be subcontractors. All those things can be set up as resources in our platform. On my screen here at the moment, just to show you what I'm looking at, so I've got those staff. Malcolm's on leave today, so that's already marked out. And Tim, our user, has done this job here in the morning. He's currently checked into this appointment here, and I can see that by the fact it's got an orange truck icon, which is blending a bit with my colours, but there's an orange truck beside him. And up the top of the link there is his time to target as to when he'll be at that site. I can click on that in the real software, and that would take me to a map of where he is and where his job is in using Google Maps. Over on the right-hand side, I have a list of all the jobs as they would appear from Exo, and you'll see the jobs and their statuses. So typically this is the active jobs from Exo. You can create jobs in our platform and schedule them straight away, and they will appear immediately in Exo. So going back to what I said before, there's no synchronization, upload, download. There is a real-time link between Exo and TimeTrak so that stuff's always live. Lastly on the screen, I'll just mention queues. So we have a feature called queues where you can, rather than have a scheduled time where someone is going to go and do something, the work they're going to do lives in a queue. So it can appear like a to-do list, and you can put stuff in a queue manually, or you can have a formula that's running in the background that's populating that queue. So it might be, show me all the jobs where Tim is the job manager. And so therefore that's Tim's job list. It could be all the jobs with a due date within the next 10 days. All the jobs that are ready to invoice. So I might use that queue to work through and raise the invoices that I need to raise. Just coming over to another view of exactly the same screen, just to show you a different scheduling view. So this time I've got my jobs down the left-hand side, and I'm in a timeline view, and I've got group scheduling of my users to the jobs that they're heading out for. So this is typically used when we're sending people to jobs for a longer duration than rather than doing 4 or 5 break fix activities a day, we're sending a group of staff to a job for a week, a month, whatever, and we want to block them out to that job for the whole day. When I'm using this sort of planning board, I have who's been allocated what, and because I've still got this time of day highlighted, that's the black sort of background underneath, it's also telling me who's already been scheduled. So over my resources tab, where I can see my resources of people, subbies, equipment, the ones in red are already scheduled at that time. So I'm getting told that they're not available. I could schedule to them, but it's showing me that they're not available at that time. So obviously I'm not going to double book them. Coming across to our mobile platform. So we have two mobile interfaces, and that's not deliberate. It's just the evolution of our product. This sort of two-column view on the right-hand side is our traditional mobile product, which is a micro website that we've had probably for over 10 years as our mobile interface. On the left-hand side, I've got a screen grab from our app-based mobile product. So in the last 3 to 4 years, we have written an app that pretty much mimics what our traditional product does. And this is written to work on an Android or iOS based device, and has the same functions, but it just has a richer interaction you get with using an app rather than using a web-based product. So we can do more in there. We can do more around notifications and pop-ups and geo-tracking and things like that. So it does give us a bit more advantage for those styles of environments. So like I showed you before, Tim is currently traveling to that appointment. So that's that same screen grab from there. And on the right-hand side, again, same thing. He would click when he arrives at destination. So that's a bit like you saw with clocking on and off before. It's check in, check out of the job that you've been assigned to go to. So for my last slide, I just thought I'd summarise some of the features that I think we have, just to give you an idea of the breadth of our product. So we have a job, sub-jobs, task structure. So you can break a job down into stages, phases, and they can be individual tasks. And then we also have some project management features where you can use that project layout to have a Gantt style view of any significant projects you're running, and see where everything's at, who it's allocated to in a visual way. From their TimeTrak system, you can go and create all these elements. And so you can create new customers, new jobs, task appointment, enter time, consume stock, enter purchase orders, raise job quotes, and complete electronic forms. So we use those electronic forms a lot in our mobile platform to get field staff to fill out a checklist. So it might be a JSA SWIMS style checklist when they arrive at site and we force them to fill it out. Or it might be that as part of their role, they've got a testing regime they need to do against a piece of equipment or a pre-start checklist, and we get them out to fill a checklist for a piece of equipment they're working on. There's various types of checklists you can have. We've got customers with over 100 checklists in their platforms. They can build them themselves. That you don't have to get us to do it once you've seen how that works. We have quite a complex or comprehensive is hopefully a better word, time approval system. So both for internal approvals and then getting the customer to approve time before we raise invoices for it as well. And typically that's a labour hire feature requirement as well. You can raise invoices from our platform. So we do have customers that have their mobile techs raise invoices in the field through the mobile interface. Some of them even collect payment through a payment gateway while they're there. And then a service coordinator can also raise an invoice in professional. These invoices are typically a due and charge style invoice rather than a progress claim. That style of invoicing you'd still do within EXO. We integrate with serviceable units, prospects and opportunities. So you can in the field build a job quote or build an opportunity quote and send it off your device to the customer. We have a knowledge-based system where you can store a lot of non-financial information in your system. I mentioned we have the check-in, check-out travel sort of workflow to see where people are, geolocate them, know the times they've spent traveling, know the time they've spent on job. We do have a full set of geolocation features where you can see users, customers, jobs, all in maps and use it for route planning and what jobs they could do when they're going to a certain area. We've got our options around scheduling or using queues to allocate work. And we do have a whole range of scheduling views that you can use based on types of calendars, the duration of them, and what best suits your business. We have a report designer, so you can use our own reports, and we have libraries of reports you can import from our sort of standard library, and then you can customize those yourself. And so that's a similar sort of tool to the Clarity tool in Exo. But again, you might want to build reports and send checklists to customers with your logo and stuff like that on it. And lastly, we have a scheduled events engine, which again, a lot of customers use for sending reports at a certain time of day. So it might be, I don't know, send me all the jobs that were marked ready to invoice yesterday, so I can go in and raise the invoices to it, or automate some of the procedures in our platform. That was all I was going to talk to you about today. So if you want to know more about our platform, there's some web links there. You can contact me, or you can speak with the guys at Momentum.
Thanks, Rod. That was great. And yeah, I can't recommend TimeTrak highly enough for businesses that use Exo job costing, and I guess are looking for a cloud front end from an operational perspective. Rod's pretty much described it, as it is and as it works, and it definitely does work. Probably worth touching on a couple of other points relating to that. It does integrate with Exo Payroll as well, Rod?
Correct.
So approved timesheets processed through TimeTrak can be pushed into job costing from an invoice and a costing perspective, but also to Exo Payroll.
Yep.
And I guess with a longer term view, Exo customers might ask themselves, why would I implement TimeTrak if at some point I'm going to move to MYOB Advanced? But I also understand that TimeTrak integrates with Advanced as well.
That's also correct. Yeah, so we have a number of customers now using TimeTrak for Advanced rather than TimeTrak for Exo, and we have some of our Exo TimeTrak customers that are currently talking to us about if they go to Advanced, how do we play with that, and can they keep TimeTrak?
Yeah, excellent. So I'll pause there and just open the floor for any questions of Rod relating to his TimeTrak solution, as well as any questions more broadly. So I guess we've covered a fair bit of content this morning and in the last couple of hours. I guess no questions usually means that the content was thorough enough. As I mentioned at the start, we have recorded this session, and we typically also break the recording up so it's a bit easier to consume rather than a 1-2 hour video. So just to recap, I guess we started with a bit of an overview of what Momentum's been doing over the last 12 months and what we're planning on doing. So a very busy time for us with a lot of growth. We had Valantis from MYOB take us through an update on what's happening in MYOB as an organisation more broadly, as well as their strategy going forward with their cloud and on-premise solutions. We had Sean from Momentum taking you through the 21.3 release of Exo, a lot of really good improvements there. We had Brian with the Momentum add-ons, and that was only a small list. There's plenty more on our website that you can take a look at. Then we introduced our Exo team. Joe has shown you MYOB Workforce Management and how that integrates with MYOB Advanced Payroll. And then we've had Rod with TimeTrak. So a lot of content. Hopefully you found that informative. We're obviously happy to take any questions you have offline. So feel free to reach out to us on email or give us a call. And thanks for your time today.